Welcome everybody to the 3D printer chat, and I'm here today with Miles and Hakan. I still don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Hakan?
No, you're not.
I'm not.
We could actually. My real name is Hakan Daniel Fagnell,
Hakan?
and you can, yeah, Hakan.
Oh.
But you can actually use Daniel if you want to. It's all fine. Most people internationally call me Daniel, and in Sweden they call me Hakan, and in Turkey they call me Hakan. So Hakan is right there. Yeah.
I've got a bit of a strange accent. You wouldn't realise that I'm British, and Miles is actually living in London right now, and he sounds a lot posher than I do. Hello, Miles. How are you doing?
Hi. Posh, really?
Yeah,
I
compared
have
to
not heard
me.
that one. I mean, I wouldn't say, like, this is getting into a very thing. I'm very North London. I'm just not angry. I'm quite happy to be here talking with you guys. I'm talking about good stuff. Upset me, and I'm not so posh.
Ah, okay. So we'll have to find ways to upset you so we can hear that.
It's not, you know,
And talking of
it's not
which,
bad.
that's the theme of today's episode is buying a 3D printer. So, I live in Canada. Buying a 3D printer is easy in some ways, but having it delivered, that's the hard part. The price of having a printer delivered is just crazy expensive here. So
Really? I'm surprised at that. You're near the US, so I thought,
yeah,
you
it's
know.
that border, and it's a big country with only a few people. So, yeah, the price of delivery is really painful here. I think my printer bought Simple Metal was like something like $200 for delivery.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
geez.
Yeah,
That thing is pretty heavy, though.
yeah. Well, it's metal, but it was a kit.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
really like how those are built. They're really solid.
yeah. So one thing that you have to keep in mind when we're talking about buying a 3D printer is how you're going to get it shipped to you. So when I bought my One How, I bought it from a Canadian reseller, and that really helped with the
Mm.
shipping.
I
You're
did the
in,
same thing with I did the same thing with a British reseller. I got it in like
yeah.
I think I got it in less than 24 hours. It was brilliant.
That is good. That is really good. Yeah, I've had things take a week from China and take 6 weeks from Vancouver. That's the crazy thing.
Whoa. That's
So
always a strange one.
you have some free trade agreements with some countries in Canada,
Yeah, they got
and
NAFTA.
Yeah, we've got the
no,
North American free trade, which seems to be one-sided towards the United States, actually.
yeah, okay. No, I'm just looking at the tax rates in different
Yeah.
countries here.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
import duty is just crazy. I like the fact that the Chinese companies very often say that the value of the item is like $50 when you spent 500, and so as a percentage, the import duty is cut down. But that can't be legal, can it?
No,
Definitely not.
it's not. It's not legal,
Definitely not.
and it falls on the receiver of the product, unfortunately, here in Sweden anyway.
Mm.
So
Maybe I shouldn't have said that on a podcast then.
no, you shouldn't.
They're gonna break
You
down
want
your
to cut
doors.
that out.
They're
You
gonna
want
come
to
for
cut
you.
that out.
Yeah, the guys in jackboots are going to come for their extra five
They're gonna
hundred
come.
dollars.
Yeah.
So it's not just shipping that's the consideration. I did mention kits makes it cheaper to ship these things, but it also makes it more difficult to get up and running. So we've all had the One How, which you can literally be up and running in like 10 minutes, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd say 10 minutes from box to print.
Yeah, that's because there's just a few screws, and you level the bed, and you can be printing the OK hand, right? That's the test on that one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But they should update that hand though. On the latest Van how I saw, the hand was still a 2015 STL
Mm.
model. So they should update it to something
If
new
it's not
or
broken, don't
something else.
fix it. It's a
Ah,
quality print.
true.
It's, so that's the first decision, right? You have the kit versus pre-made. I've not had a great experience with pre-made printers, but I think learning through building is a good experience because you get to know your printer inside out, right?
It
Yeah.
depends on who you are. I really think it does.
Like,
I think if you have some kind of creative STEMmy, is that a word? If you're like if you're a person who's immersed in this kind of thing in general, like if you have any kind of electronics background, if you have any kind of science, engineering, computing background, you can probably put a kit together. But some people I know and I see a lot of time in the 3D printing group are like really arty people who have no idea how to do anything.
Yeah.
So they just want to use the 3D printer to create their beautiful artwork.
Yeah, and that's a good point actually, because a lot of us are 3D printing enthusiasts, and we like the technology. I came from the Arduino background, and then later Raspberry Pi and robots. So I came wanting to build things, and I guess that really makes a difference.
Yeah, I mean, I never really wanted to build 3D printers. I've got more into that, and I plan to do some. I guess my first scratch build this summer I'm planning on, so I'll let you know how that goes.
Mm.
But I just wanted to print stuff from video games most of the time. I really like video games. I really like, I went to university to make video games, and then I decided I should grow up, and I transferred to make apps instead. So, but I've always yeah, not that great, but that's a whole other topic. But the thing I wanted to do was just be able to take something from a video game and print it in real life. I thought that was just really cool. I could have something that I liked from a video game, like weapons, armor.
Mm.
That's why I think it was Daniel Lilly-Green. Shout out to him and his amazing cosplay and video game inspired stuff. I think it was him and Kirby Downey's models that just made me pull the trigger. I was like, I need to get one of these machines so I can make these things. So I was never really interested at first in the actual building. I just wanted to press the button, and I believed in all the magic.
Mm.
Yeah.
And then you learn that that's not actually true.
Well, that's the thing is, the real test is when it comes down to having a problem and can you get customer support. And you were saying, Miles, that you had a MakerBot, which wasn't necessarily the best customer service in the UK.
Awful.
Yeah.
I made a really good friend from the reseller though, so there is that. Because he really helped out. He ended up being a very long-term supportive member of the community, and then ended up because when MakerBot, and it's one of the MakerBot have a good printer, guys. I get a lot. I don't like the company. Their machine is pretty decent though. Their support outside of the US is awful. So that whatever reseller that they have, they basically contract the support through them, and they generally sell it to you. So you call up and ask a question, and they're like, "Yes, but money." And it's like, ugh, So if you're buying your first 3D printer, go with some companies that actually care and actually have good support.
Yeah.
That's why people, as I was saying last episode, that's why I think that one of the reasons why the Prusa is doing so well, because there's a lot of people, and there's actually people you can call and who want to help you.
And you don't have to call them. There's live chat, which is great.
Amazingly useful.
Yeah. I'm an introvert. I'm shy or introverted. I don't like talking to people, but I can chat using text all day. And that's one of the reasons I recommend it for a first printer, or a printer where you're not 100% sure that person is going to be able to handle all the problems. Having some customer service is really vital. Another good one is Printerbot. I found their customer service absolutely excellent. They would send me parts just on the suspicion that there was something wrong with a part. I didn't have to even ask for it. But, there's some companies that you get zero support. And I'll not mention the name, but an Australian printer, it was basically one guy, and he's got staff now, but I got zero support from him for like a year. And one of the reasons people were recommending him was because he was a guy that was involved in the community, and he just disappeared on me. So you've got these little companies that are supposed to have great, stellar customer service, and you've got these bigger companies that their reputation's based on it. But then people are saying, I want to buy a $300 printer, so it doesn't always match up, does it?
No, it doesn't. And the thing is, if you have small companies like you have shops, like in Stockholm, we have Creative Tools, and they sell all kinds of printers. And if I buy a One-How there, I know that I can just take the One-How, go there, and get help straight off. So it doesn't matter what type of printer I buy from them; they will always be there for me. But if I bought the One-How off Amazon or directly from One-How, I think I would have a problem with their service, because they're not responding that quick, and they're not responding at all at some time.
Yeah.
At some point.
Yeah,
So would you say it's worth paying extra to get that service,
Yeah,
even if
absolutely.
Gladly pay
Absolutely.
$50 extra to get the service.
Yeah, and I just did that
I-
with the CR10. I just bought Creately CR10, and I bought it from Tiny Machines in the United States. Even though I didn't, his service is to set them up and test them and then ship them out. I got mine from China because I'm in Canada, but knowing that I can contact him and he can sort things out for me is a comfort. I've not had to use that yet, but I know that I could if I needed to.
And another thing I would say to anyone listening who's thinking about buying a 3D printer, and some people give me flack for this, but I'm a person known for having strong opinions on things. Never, ever, ever, ever buy a 3D printer that, one, voids your warranty for using someone else's filament apart from them, and two, only supports their own filament.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I don't care how good your printer is.
I bought a Cube
Go
3.
away.
And
I
you
was
know
just
what
gonna
happened
say
with the
that.
Cube. It is all proprietary. The software is proprietary. The filament's proprietary. Apparently, there is a firmware now that I need to try that that hacks it so you can use third-party filament. But they're pulled out of the consumer market, so they're not going to support the software anymore.
There's a reason for that. That's why everyone is buying them on the cheap and just throwing ramps boards in them.
Yeah, I mean, you can get them for $200. It was $1,000 when I got mine.
Exactly.
Did they release that update themselves, or
Oh
was
no,
it someone else that did?
it's a hack. Yeah, that's
It's a
why I haven't
hack,
tried
right?
it yet.
And that's the worst part. I mean, if they were pulling out, they could have at least have released that themselves.
Yeah.
Would have saved some face, I think. I don't know.
Pro tip, guys. If you type in the name of your 3D printer you're thinking about buying, and the first autocomplete is hack, it's rubbish.
It was a beautiful
Don't do
printer, but you had to use all
Don't
their
do
stuff.
it to yourself.
So yeah, I mean, we were talking in the previous episode about open source. Everything Prusa is available on GitHub. You can download all the parts and the software. Same with Lulzbot. You can just get everything as they're building new product variants. As they do a new edition, they put it all on GitHub. And the Cube.
Yeah, Lulzbot is a perfect example of a company where you know you're paying a little bit extra, but when you do, it's definitely worth it.
Mm,
Those guys are so nice.
yeah.
Those guys are they have the community on lock, and they really care about people having a good time with their machines, and it really shows.
Yeah. But these are things that people in the community don't often they think about budget first, right? Or I need to print cosplay, so I want a 300mm cubed print surface. I need, I need it to have this sort of capability in terms of extrusion and filament. People think about price, they think about what they want to do, but they don't necessarily think about the problems that they could be causing themselves, do they?
That's why I think it's very, very important to listen more. Like I definitely hit the button too quickly on my machine, because I had a guy who was, you should have seen this. This guy had way more money than sense, so he was just selling it to me. So I just went for it, and I should have waited a lot longer before I pulled the trigger on buying a machine, because you don't know the problems that you can have because you don't have the experience in using 3D printing.
Yeah.
So that's why a lot of people have a lot of experience with 3D printing, and we're the guys who know how to do things now, but that's because we burnt our hands on PLA 100 times already, and had MKS boards blow up, and had problem. So
Literally got the scars.
yeah, sometimes literally. So it's very, very important that people who are looking to buy their first printer, especially their first printer,
Yeah.
listen to other people who've had printers in general and also that particular printer. Like, it's very good if people are still buying a 3D printer 18 months after it came out. If people are still buying a 3D printer 18 months after it came out, it's probably good.
Yeah. And give you a good example of what not to do. My first printer was crowdsourced. You can see where this is going, right? So I was one of the quote.
Which one was it?
It was the Makey box, and I was one of the quote lucky ones. I actually got mine. Lots of people didn't get them. The company went bust, but not before lots and lots of quality control problems turned up. And I've got a video I need to share in the show notes, but it was horrible. It had a really good idea behind it, and apparently the people who visited the factory in China that was manufacturing them, they saw it printing beautifully. It used lead screws for the X and Y axis,
That's
and
strange.
it had a lowering bed, so it was kind of like Ultimaker, where the bed didn't move, it was the print head, and it was a Bowden. In concept and in prototype, beautiful. In actual reality, when you got it, all acrylic. The lead screws would just jam up, and the extruder would go up. Terrible actual experience, but the concept was great. The crowdfunding campaign was good. It was successful, and the company went bust. So
That's another thing, though. Acrylics crack often. Like TiVo had a big problem with that when they send out their printers. When you screw it together,
you've got to be very careful.
You need to get new parts or new pieces or laser cut them somewhere.
And sometimes you can 3D print it if you've got access to a 3D printer. So, yeah.
Oh yeah,
that's another thing I was thinking about. The RepRap project was born under a single but meaningful philosophy: to build the first self-replicating printer of general use for humanity. And this RepRap created a factory with the potential to create more factories.
Yeah.
So if everyone was following their concept, just trying to do it open source, I think a lot of problems would just go away. And if they use the community to learn from the experiences that they had, like with TiVo or other printers, then
Yeah.
Oh, you can see it when you see the second version of the printer or the updated version of the printer, like we have with the MK2S. You can see that's like 6 to 8 months of Prussia and all of his team just sitting in the Facebook group they have and sitting on their forum and finding all of the common features and fixing them.
Yeah, and you can see the iteration evolve, and that's another pro tip, really. Can you get parts? In 6 months' time, in 12 months' time, something is going to wear out, even if it's a bearing. Will you be able to get parts and replace it? And that's another problem with my cube.
That's so important. I can't believe I forgot that.
Get parts
if you can go onto the company, and a pro tip to any company wanting to sell out, if you think you're going to make the next 3D printer to change the world, if I go onto your website and I'm looking to buy your printer, if I don't see a part section and I see every single part that can make the 3D printer, because you've got them, it's not like you don't have them.
Yeah.
Put them up for sale, because something will break. And if I know, here's a reasonably priced replacement that I know will work directly from the source. That's the thing I had with my maker board that I talked about last episode. $400 for an extruder, people. It was £279 plus VAT plus shipping. You're having a giggle. You know?
And it's amazing how much
I had to call and I had to email people. It wasn't like just put out anywhere.
Yeah.
I had to go and find it myself, and it took like a week to have all those correspondence.
Yeah, and it's amazing how many times you can't get parts because it's proprietary. And it's like there's a deal right now. I'm not going to mention the company, but buy 9 spools of filament and you get a free printer. It's the old.
Oh, I've seen that.
Buy the razor blades and get the handle free, and it's like, you're not going to get parts for that printer. There's no way.
Yeah, and it doesn't even matter if you're not open source, which I'm not one of these people who has to have open source all the time. I get why people want to protect their things if they're doing it, for business reasons, and some people don't agree with that philosophy. It's fine. People are not people don't always have to have the same philosophy, but have the parts available. It's not like you don't have them.
Yeah, and a lot wears out. It's like there's obvious consumables like filament, even nozzles. That's a consumable, but bearings wear out, especially if you don't oil them. You don't oil your rods and things.
Oh, it's mainly the stuff that's hard to get. Like I said, when I had my MakerBot, they didn't sell the bit of plastic that all of the extruder mounted to.
Mm.
I had to go to, I think it was Billy 3D in Australia, who cloned it.
Mm.
And I had to try. I paid an exorbitant amount of money to ship that from Australia to London. Because I could not buy a part that they were injection molding and they were producing thousands of a year for all their printers. Why don't you have that just put up on your website? That's a serious thing. If anyone wants to have a 3D printer, anyone's looking to buy a 3D printer, that is something you should very, very, very you should make sure that you see. If you see a well-documented parts list, and especially if it goes several revisions back, that's a really good sign. That's a good sign of a good company.
Or if you see people using something like E3D, right? So you bought a printer from one manufacturer, but you can see people swapping the extruder and the hot end out for like an E3D or Buddha nozzle, all these other different, hexagon. If you can see that you can use third-party parts that are well thought of, that's another thing that makes it expandable and extensible.
Yeah.
One of the things that...
So what do you guys think about kits versus pre-made printers?
I think there's a place for both. Like Miles was saying, some people just want to print, and that's why I got the Cube, because I was sick of troubleshooting my printer bot at the time. But didn't work out so well. I could just print for a while until I realised that I was paying 4 times the amount I should be for the filament, and it got very expensive very quickly.
We should suggest something for the people listening to this. Should we suggest getting a kit or a pre-made printer for around, say, 300, 300 or 500? Should they get a kit or a pre-made printer?
It's a dead meme. Meme.
Yeah. I would say that it, like Miles says, it depends on the person, what you want to do, what your intention is. Is it going to be a hobby, or is it a means to an end? If it's a tool, then get a pre-made that's well respected, got customer service. If you want to know your printer inside out, and if you've got the time to spend, then a kit's a good idea.
Yeah, definitely.
It's a good price on kits as well. I mean, right now I'm sitting next to a TiVo. It's 1 million pieces right now, and I've seen TiVo's communities online, and it prints good if you build it the right way. If you manage to get it all together, it's a good printer. It doesn't print like shit or anything like that. But there's so many small things that can go wrong when you're not having the right type of manuals to build it, and you don't have the knowledge in how electronics should be wired and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think the TiVo's a perfect example that the community has actually stepped up and replaced a lot of the information that should come from the manufacturer. So I wouldn't have been able to build my Black Widow successfully without the community, because I found out the reason why it was under extruding is because the extruder motor was actually rammed straight up to the filament feeder, and I had to file it down, and that made me mad. That upset me, because to me that's not selling it fit for purpose. The extruder motor shouldn't need filing down with a metal file. So I'm replacing that extruder with an E3D, and hopefully it'll be perfect after that.
I'm very biased in favor of E3D because they're British and they make a really good product, and that's the big 3D printing claim to fame the UK has, and those guys are crazy in the best way. They have the right kind of crazy. I like what they do up there.
So where are we sending the invoice to? I mean,
for the advert.
Yeah.
Well, the advert. Oh, pay me a meme.
We've also 3D printing. We also talked at OneHow. We all enjoyed our OneHow DI3s. So that's a Prusa clone. Great printer.
One thing for kit printers, I make sure I say, if you are building a kit printer, have a friend who already has a functioning printer around.
Yeah.
Because if you got a 3D print a part, you can't do it if it's not, because your machine isn't working yet. So have a friend.
And that's
if you
another
don't, if you
crazy
don't have
thing.
a friend,
Yeah.
sorry, just real quick.
The
If you need a friend, come join us in the 3D printing Facebook group. Find someone who lives close to you. Someone will 3D print and ship something to you.
Yeah.
If someone's around in your local area and they can literally send the part in a big envelope, they'll do it for you. You'll find someone.
You guys will find some links down in the description of this podcast. So just
and there's
come
3D
in and join
hubs.
us.
3D hubs is often it works out really cheap if you take into account like labor costs and filament costs. It's actually quite cheap to get things through 3D hubs versus somebody shipping long distance. So keep that in mind as well.
Find somebody local. That's what makes it. And people are happy to help as long as you don't use dead memes. People are happy to help.
Don't use dead memes. And maker spaces. Very often there's a maker space in your area or not too far away. So they will not only have the equipment, they might have tools and everything, but they might be able to help you with it because they're small communities as well. And one of the best things about maker spaces is the people rather than the tools.
Very, very true.
The thing with budget on buying a new printer as well is your budget is directly correlated to your skill level. If you're really good at this, you can find a really good printer really cheap, but you have to build it yourself. If you get a pre-made printer like OneHow or a CR10, or it's just a few screws and it's ready to go, and that's the one I would suggest getting as first printer. I would never suggest anyone to get a kit with 1 million small pieces as the first one.
But that said, with my OneHow, I spent months upgrading. I went through all the upgrades in the community, and it now prints better than my Prusa. But my Prusa I built and printed, and I've not done anything to it other than load filament. So, and I wipe the surface every now and again with some alcohol. So I would agree. I would go with something like the OneHow or the CR10 or something, or the pre-made Prusa. But if you've got the time, there's a lot of people with more time than money, and so that's a sweet spot for the kits as well. If you're time rich and money poor, then really the kits is the way you're going to save.
Yeah, obviously, yeah.
So obviously there's a lot of problems with that. In the next episode, we're going to talk about the problems with 3D printing, the pitfalls, the mistakes, and the disasters. But thank you for listening today, and thank you, Miles, and thank you, Hakan. I can't pronounce your name. Daniel.
You can say Daniel.
Let's go with Daniel.
I'll go with Daniel. I can say that. So thank you for being with us today, and see us on the next episode. Please give us a review, give us a like, share with your friends, give us some feedback, tell us how we're doing. See you on the next episode.
Bye.